Hi, I'm Antonia. This is Universally Me. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Antonia Carlotta. And don't forget to go to my Patreon where you can get my Universally Mini podcast with news from Universal, the horror world, the classic film community, and more that didn't make this video. Plus, it's a great way to support my work, and I love the community that we're growing over there. So go check it out now, patreon.com/Antonia Carlotta. Earlier this year, the United States Mint started the American Women Quarters Program, which is a 4-year program celebrating the accomplishments and contributions by women of the United States. And on October 25th, they released their quarter featuring Anna May Wong, the first ever Asian American to be featured on American Money. But who was Anna May Wong, and how did she get this honor? Anna May Wong was an actress widely considered the first Chinese American movie star. Her career spanned decades, genres, and mediums. She was an activist, and her personal life was just as interesting as her public image. So let's start all the way back at the beginning and learn about the life of Anna May Wong. Anna May Wong was born January 3rd, 1905 in Los Angeles, California. She was a third-generation Chinese American and the second of 7 kids. Her parents ran a laundromat. In Anna May's younger years, her family lived in a relatively diverse neighborhood, though in 1910, they relocated to a street where they were the only Chinese family on the block. Anna May and her sister were often teased and bullied at public school because of their race, so their parents switched them to a Chinese Presbyterian school, and Anna May also attended Chinese language school a couple afternoons a week. Again, to set the scene, this is 1910, so the industry is still relatively new, and it's just moving from the East Coast, where it started, out to Hollywood. You might remember that my Uncle Carl and a lot of other filmmakers as well were specifically looking to escape Thomas Edison, who was on the East Coast, and the oppressive hold that he had over the industry. And when movies came out west, they started filming in Anna May Wong's neighborhood, and she became obsessed. She would skip school to go see movies, and as a 9-year-old would hang out on sets begging filmmakers to give her roles in films. She got her first professional acting gig in 1919 in Alla Naziimova's The Red Lantern. A friend of her dad's actually got her a role as an extra carrying a lantern. She continued acting as much as she could over the next 2 years, and when she was 16 years old, she dropped out of high school so she could pursue her acting career full-time. It's pretty incredible how quickly her career picked up from here. She got her first screen credit that year playing Lon Chaney's wife. Yes, that Lon Chaney. And the following year, she got her first starring role in the Technicolor film The Toll of the Sea, and she got rave reviews. But this doesn't mean that suddenly everything was so easy for her. I mean, think of how limited diverse roles are in Hollywood today, and then remember that this was 100 years ago. Most of the roles that she was offered were Chinese stereotypes, and she couldn't be in an interracial relationship on screen, even with a white person pretending to be Asian, so it barred her from being a leading lady. Anna May Wong was really disappointed by this. She had the talent, she had the love of the critics and the public, but it just wasn't enough. It was hard enough being offered so many stereotypical roles, but on top of that, sometimes she would even get passed over for non-Asian actors playing those stereotypes. It must have been so demoralizing. In 1928, in search of better opportunities, Anna May Wong moved to Europe. Just as in Hollywood, Anna May Wong got great reviews working overseas, and she got some great roles, both on stage and on screen. I'd be lying, though, if I said that all issues of typecasting or on-screen racism disappeared. In the 1929 film Piccadilly, for instance, a scene where she was going to kiss her love interest got cut from the film. Her work in Europe gained her greater attention in Hollywood, of all places. She signed a contract with Paramount that promised her leading roles and top billing, and she appeared in On the Spot on Broadway. She did still continue to accept some stereotypical roles. Usually, I noticed when it would further her career and her influence. Anna May Wong was determined not to sit idly by while Hollywood continued to disrespect her and her race. She started pushing back against directors who incorrectly depicted elements of her culture and advocating on behalf of better roles for Chinese American actors. She went back and forth between Hollywood and Europe a few times over the next few years, always finding her best opportunities and continuing to solidify her status as a bona fide star. But in 1936, she would face her greatest industry heartbreak. Pearl Buck's novel, The Good Earth, was being turned into a film, and Anna May Wong was determined to play the leading role, a Chinese woman named O-Lan. For years, she told people that she wanted the part, and newspapers and magazines all agreed that she would be the best actress for the role. But the role was given to German-American actress Louise Rayner, and Anna May Wong was offered only a smaller character who is essentially a villain. She's quoted as telling Irving Thalberg at MGM, who was head of production, "If you let me play O-Lan, I will be very glad. But you're asking me, with Chinese blood, to do the only unsympathetic role in the picture featuring an all-American cast playing Chinese characters." Louise Rayner won an Oscar for the role, and Anna May Wong subsequently took a short hiatus from Hollywood. I should step back for a moment to talk about Anna May Wong behind the scenes, because yes, she was a movie star, but her stardom extended beyond her movies. In the 1920s, she crafted a flapper image. She had blunt-cut bangs and a thin physique that fit the style perfectly. Women all around the world tried to copy her look and her style. She often combined the fashions of Hollywood with traditional Chinese dress, or as one article I read put it, sometimes her clothes are as modern as the Chrysler Building, sometimes as Chinese as the pagodas in the Forbidden City, but they are always smart and correct. I think Anna May Wong really loved her place as a fashion icon. Fashion was where she could authentically express herself without judgment or ridicule, where who she was wasn't mocked or shamed, but instead she was inspiration and people tried to be like her. Anna May Wong had an active social life. She never married, but she had quite a few romances and relationships. Some that I know of include Todd Browning, the director of Dracula, cinematographer Charles Roche, and it's said that Eric Mankiewicz may have been the love of her life. She acted with Marlene Dietrich in Shanghai Express, and the two shared a very close friendship that some believe may have gotten a little bit intimate. As Anna May Wong distanced herself from Hollywood, she decided to take a year-long trip to China to learn about her heritage. She decided to make a documentary about her experience called My China Film that was almost a direct response to being passed over in The Good Earth. Anna May Wong struggled a bit on her journey abroad. The Chinese dialect she spoke was not widely spoken or understood, so she often had to use a translator. Some towns welcomed her with open arms, but others felt her roles or European clothes were degrading. When Anna May Wong returned to Hollywood, she felt like she didn't belong anywhere. Not Chinese enough to feel at home there, but not American enough to be welcomed where she grew up either. I think her whole life, her whole career, Anna May Wong had to walk a really delicate line. How could she be a part of the industry that she loved while also standing up for what's right? If she opted out of the industry entirely, well, she could never affect any change. But if she took too many stereotypical roles, well, now she's reinforcing all of these negative ideas around the world. So what was she supposed to do? In the late 1930s, Anna May Wong finished out her contract with Paramount with a string of B movies. Though these movies were less popular than the big budget films of her earlier years, they were able to take bigger risks and allow her to play better roles that were more fleshed out, where she played characters who were sympathetic or successful or even powerful. With every year, it seemed her confidence and sense of self grew, and she was more comfortable being outspoken and standing up for China and for Chinese Americans. In 1938, she auctioned off her movie costumes and donated the money to Chinese aid. She donated her salary on a few movies to United China Relief. She campaigned openly for politicians, and she continued to advocate for better roles for Chinese American actors and better representation for Chinese characters in film. In 1951, Anna May Wong would transition to television with The Gallery of Lu Tsong, a detective show written specifically for her, where she was the first Asian American lead on TV. And in 1956, she narrated ABC's Bold Journey, a documentary about China that used footage from her 1936 excursion. I think the constant pressure on Anna May Wong was a lot. To constantly be fighting discrimination, to feel like an outsider everywhere, to be one of the only faces representing your entire race and heritage. I can't imagine what that stress might feel like for someone. In her later years, Anna May Wong started drinking quite a bit and she developed some health issues. And in 1961, at 56 years old, Anna May Wong died of a heart attack at her home in Santa Monica. I almost feel that I've done Anna May Wong a disservice by not talking more about her many accomplishments on stage and radio and TV, but there's just not enough time. I highly encourage you to keep learning more about Anna May Wong, her work, and her tireless activism, how she always tried to keep changing Hollywood from the inside out. In the last few years, Anna May Wong has finally been getting her due. She was honored on the Google homepage for the 97th anniversary of The Toll of the Sea. She was a character in Ryan Murphy's Hollywood, and a biopic about her starring Gemma Chan is in the works right now. And of course, you can now see her beautiful face on the back of the new US quarter. I cannot wait to see my first one. Don't forget to go to Patreon for my Universally Mini podcast, where I have so much more about Anna May Wong. I cannot tell you how impactful and influential this woman really was. Make sure that you're subscribed, follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Antonia Carlotta, and thank you so much for watching. Bye.